Oh boy. Oh, this is gonna give me some hot water. All right, we can do this. So, how you been, ladies and gentlemen? You missed me? Bet you did. That's right, I'm back. So, over the past few days, I was streaming and I was having a conversation with the chat, and one specific viewer stuck out to me because he had asked me a question, and I described it on stream, and I was originally gonna just post the clip on YouTube, but I felt it deserved its own video and a little bit more thought processes, behind it. And if I feel like some of the clips from the stream will explain my points better, I'll show them. But today we're going to be talking about a, to say the least, controversial figure. If you saw the thumbnail, you would know. But before we get into it, I need to do one thing, and one thing first. It's been 6 months since I took a shower, so I'm nice and greasy enough to talk about this situation. So Asmongold. Sky's blue, right? Yeah. He's a controversial figure. None to be said. Well, in my conversation with that viewer, when I was talking about Asmongold, I will admit I was glazing pretty hard. I was glazing a lot, okay? But I want to give my points on why I was glazing specifically. So Asmongold has been a content creator that I've been watching for a good while now. I want to say since his first Dark Souls playthrough. So I haven't been around like all the way back to like the WoW days, or well, he was still playing WoW then, but like the only content he did was like WoW days. I haven't been around that long, but I have been around for a while now. And one thing I've noticed about Asmongold as a content creator, as a streamer, is that he has shifted his focus to a more political thing. And I see a lot of his audience be split on this. Half of them like the new content that he makes, and then the other half doesn't really like the content that he makes. Well, my opinion is, I think Asmongold is a pretty smart businessman with why he's doing what he does. We may never know like what his intentions are. You know, it might be politically motivated, it might not. But if there's one thing that I've always told people, is that I have a respect for Asmongold. And I think that gets lost in translation when you say things like that on the internet, because people are one way or the other on the internet. It's a very delusional pack mentality that a lot of people have on the internet, where it can't be one or the other. It is one or the other. That's the more correct term. It's one or the other. You can't just be a middleman. You can't just be an independent. You know what I mean? You can't just be willing to hear both sides out of an argument. And I think this is the niche that Asmongold specifically lies in. Yes, he says controversial things. Yes, he picks sides. But I think me personally, I don't know the guy personally. I don't know what his intentions are, but this is my theory. So he can either prove this to me right or wrong, you know, if he ever sees this video, which I highly doubt. So I think he sits in the middle. What do I mean by that? Fence sitter? No. I think he sits in the middle and he roots for the everyman / every woman. He roots for the rational thinker. He roots for the normal people. And I think another thing that adds on top of that is the way he carries himself. He doesn't carry himself like most rich asshole streamers do. He carries himself like an average Joe, like a normal person. If you were to show a picture of him to your average person, or as he says, your average Walmart American, they would go, oh, that's just a guy. He's wearing a white shirt. He's, you know. But if you show somebody a picture of like Hassan, for example, with him posed up with all his nice cars and his nice house and all that shit, people are going to have a different reaction to a person who carries himself like that. And I think that's another important aspect about Asmongold's character. Yeah, he's an asshole. Yeah, he's a realist. And yes, sometimes he tells the truth that some people don't want to hear. But the reality is that he sits in a niche. He sits in a middle area where he roots for the average person, the average normal person, the common sense setter. You know what I mean? I also agree with some of his takes, while disagreeing with some of his takes. You see, that's what being a normal person means. You know what I mean? People have forgotten what the definition of normal is in our society, in America especially, where it's okay to say that you agree with somebody without saying you jerk them off and suck their dick every night. You know what I mean? You get me? But I think it's a poison in the well. There's a poison in the well. We need to pull it from the roots. If you know that reference, I love you. I'll give your comment a like. It's becoming a problem in America where people have an issue where they'll just say, well, I agree with this side completely. Or you'll say, for example, well, let me get back to the conversation. So I was, when I was saying these things on stream, somebody came into my chat and they said, well, if you agree with Asmongold, you must be conservative, right? And I said, no, I'm not. Actually, I'm not. I'm not conservative, nor am I Democratic. I am in the middle. I am an independent voter. It's a niche, yes. You know, people, we get called fence sitters all the time, sure. But I don't like pack mentalities. I don't like choosing sides. You know what I mean? I'm willing to hear both arguments out in a situation, to be the rational thinker, to think about my options. You know what I mean? It seems like nowadays people just join a pack, they join a cult, they join a fucking political party just because, just out of spite for the other one. It's very common. And I think that kind of mentality is very dangerous for a country as diverse and as wonderful and as sometimes dangerous as ours. And so I think what Asmongold is trying to imply is that certain sides of the political spectrum can go way too far, obviously. You know what I mean? And as of recently, you could argue that the Democratic Party has went too far, just like in the past when the Republican Party has went too far. It's a never-ending battle of each party just nipping and tacking each other over and over again, and then people choosing sides and then arguing about it and bickering about it on the internet instead of actually doing something like real or legitimate. And I think that's the biggest problem in our society. But that's enough political stuff from me. I also, in the conversation of mentioning Hassan and Asmongold, the viewer mentioned to me, he said it sounded stupid. And I'm like, yes, their beef is very stupid. And I found it ironic that the person who kept egging it on was the one that started it. It was fucking Hassan. Hassan started this shit, and then he continued it. And what's funny is that Asmongold just kept clip farming his ass. And it's like, it's a never-ending cycle. You know what I mean? And I like to talk about some of my favorite content creators on my channel. I do. My biggest inspiration being Moist Critical. Also, another inspiration for me is Asmongold. And then the third one is Mudahar, Some Ordinary Gamers. And I highly doubt any of them will ever see this video. Maybe this video will be a time capsule. But to say I have respect for Asmongold, yes, I do. I do have a lot of respect for the way he carries himself, what he believes in, the fact that he can stand on what he believes in, the fact that he uses his platform to do those things. And yes, he has shifted his genre of video making to a different and more controversial, place. You can't deny that it's working. And that's another thing. He's very blatant about, how much political stuff has, how it's made him money, how much, it's worth. But as I always tell you guys, and I will always tell people, you never know somebody's true intentions because you don't, you're not inside their mind. You're not inside their head. All you can do is predict and just think about it. But I think Asmongold is not as bad of a person as people say he is. Just like I don't think Hassan is as bad as people say he is. I think it's just a simple fact that they don't agree with what they believe in politically, and because of that, they argue and bicker, day in and day out, and that's just the way it is. And unfortunately, that's how the internet works. And I think that Asmongold is doing a good thing, because I try to preach the same things that he says, some of the things that he says, like being a rational thinker, putting your fist up for common sense, to just be a normal person. And being normal is not bad. It seems like everybody wants to be special. It's so weird to me how everybody now wants to be special. It's not a matter of just being, you can be special and be normal in your own way. But it's like, that is just not the case. You know what I mean? You're either a libtard, or you're a conservative dog, or you're a goddamn, MAGA. It's disgusting. And I don't really like to discuss political stuff very often. I have always been a middleman. I'm willing to hear both sides out. You know what I mean? And it just seems like nowadays it's just getting worse and worse, and it's just, there's no escape. And this video is kind of rambly, and I do apologize for that. I didn't really have much planned. I just wanted to talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while now. And I highly doubt, Asmongold or any of these people that I've been talking about will ever see this video, but that's okay. I still think it's worth mentioning, because this is my time capsule. This is my YouTube channel, and I get to do what I want. So yeah. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys hopefully soon. And I'm finna go take a shower. So see you. See ya.